What's up, guys? Welcome to The Sports Case. I am your host, Casey Hudson, on episode 2 of More Than a Woman, where we have the lovely Allie Courtnall. You might know her as Eric Kendrick's fiance, but she's a hell of a lot more than Eric Kendrick's fiance. Allie, thank you so much for joining us and being our second guest on this show. More importantly, how does it feel to be engaged, and how does it feel to be a fiance?
Oh my goodness, it feels so good. I mean, we've been together for so long. It feels like perfect timing now. I mean, I had to wait a long time, but he's right on time in my opinion, and I'm really happy we're in a really good place, and it obviously feels great.
Yes, it's a title that just changes the game in the best way. So, of course, we'll briefly go over you and Eric because this is all about you. But you mentioned you guys were together for a long time. How did you two meet?
So we met at a mutual friend's birthday. I want to say it was over 10 years ago, and we connected right away, but we just became friends. At first, I wasn't really into him like that. But a year later, because I'm a year younger than him. So a year later, I went to UCLA where he had already been for a year. And we just kind of furthered our friendship then, didn't really date. And then finally, when we were kind of both single at the same time, end of college, we started dating.
Oh, wow. So that's great. You guys started with a friendship, which I think is the best way to build any relationship that's going to last. And obviously that'll contribute to a great marriage for you too. That's awesome. So, okay. So meeting at UCLA, well, knowing each other throughout UCLA and stuff like that. I think I noticed on your social media, you're also a college athlete. So did the schedule juggling start happening around then in college, or, when would you say that you and Eric had to start evaluating your schedules and your relationship at the same time?
I feel like we both really didn't know any different because we started dating with hectic schedules, and I played 2 sports, so I really never had any time, but we always seemed to make time for each other. I didn't really have an off season in college. And then I want to say a year into dating, he had left to go to the combine and all of that and start training in Arizona. So we started doing distance pretty quickly. So I feel like, it was just a juggling act from the beginning. So for me, the whole Minnesota thing, I was already used to just trying to balance a million things at one time. But I actually moved to Minnesota full time his first year. So his rookie year, I was living there the entire year. I actually got a job out there working with kids. So I spent the whole year out there. It wasn't for me. It's because I felt like I was more just there working to accommodate him versus pursuing something for myself. But I'm glad I did it because at least I gave we tried that option, and then it didn't work for our relationship because I needed something that where I was passionate about, and I could have that drive that made me happy as well, like football did for him. So I went back to kind of long distance and balancing my work, but also prioritizing our relationship too.
Yeah. And that's such a great point that you bring up. I'm glad that you kind of segued there anyway, because it's when you first start trying to make this sacrifice, and it's the whole balancing act of not losing yourself, but trying to find yourself at the same time. If you think of the age range that we're in, I think we're all still learning so much about ourselves and what we love, what sets our soul on fire. So when you decided, okay, I need to go move, focus on myself a little bit and whatnot, what set your soul on fire? What were you excited about? What was calling to you to do in life?
Well, I was fresh off of sports, and that was something that that was my identity for so long, as being an athlete. And I look forward to games every week. That was my passion. But I knew that's not what I wanted to do after college. I knew I kind of wanted to reinvent myself and figure out who I am beyond just being an athlete. But I didn't want to fully leave it behind. So that's fitness modeling was kind of the perfect way to do it, where I could kind of do the artistic kind of side of it, but still be an athlete and work out on set and be healthy and still take care of myself and work out for a goal. So I feel like that was kind of a perfect segue right out of college. And I really enjoyed it. Like you get to travel and you get to meet really cool people. And I mean, it took me to places like Scotland, which was awesome. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. So for me, I became passionate about that pretty quickly. And yeah, it's nice because I never really got to stop doing the whole like athletic sports thing. Like I got to continue doing that with modeling, and it was kind of fun to combine the two worlds.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that whole the identity of athleticism. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Because I did college soccer, I did cheerleading, and then after
Yeah.
it's like, whoa, what's next? Like I'm not preparing for something. That
Yeah.
shook me. Not
It's
preparing for
hard.
something and trying to shift that mentality was just the weirdest kind of slump. It's like, okay, I need something here. So for me, I guess where the fitness world ended up translating was NPC competing or like weightlifting and stuff. So then it's like, okay, now I have something that I'm looking forward to, a competition, something competitive, something I have to prepare for. So yours is definitely a lot more fun. Mine, I gave it
No,
a
that
try.
sounds badass. Oh my
It
God,
was
sorry, that was
cool.
really loud.
Oh, you're totally fine. Just a heads up, everyone. Ellie's got construction going
Yeah,
on,
I'm so sorry, you guys. There's a lot going on over here.
but it's all going to be worth it. So yeah, so the fun part is that, you know, then you get these great pictures, then you have the artistic aspect, like you said. What was some of the, when you started to really dive into fitness modeling and stuff, you have that competitive edge to prepare for a photo shoot and stuff. What was the exciting parts about that? And what were some of the parts where you know, may have mentally had to reevaluate how to prepare? Because I know as athletes, we get this obsessive gene, and it's like we need to reevaluate the balance of obsession versus commitment, is what I
Yeah.
noticed.
No, for sure. I mean, I feel like the fun part about it was that, you know, my prep for shoots was working out and training, and I love to do that. Like for me, that's so fun. And I trying different workouts and, you know, getting really good at things that maybe I didn't have the choice of doing. Like when I was playing soccer, running track, like I never really got to box or like do all these really fun activities that kind of applied to some of the shoots I was doing. So for me, that was really fun. But I think the hard part about it was relearning I guess like when you're shooting with athletic stuff, it's more for the shot. It's not necessarily doing like proper form and like things like that. Or like when you're running, having like a good face while you're running, like you kind of have to relearn like what you've been taught your whole life, which you think is the right way. But in this world, they don't care about that. They just want everything to look good. So for me, that was really tough. And also I guess just the biggest part with modeling is how many people are out for particular jobs and how hard it is to book jobs too. So you can't take it personally every time you don't get something. Like you really have to celebrate the wins that you do get. And I think that was really hard for me because I'm so competitive that I want to book everything and anything that is thrown my way. So when I don't get something, I'm like, man, what did I do? Like, was it me? So really focusing on keeping that confidence that is really easy to lose. And, you know, and it took me back to like a time where maybe I lost a starting spot with soccer, or, you know, I didn't make it to the national championship and I made it to like the last like race right before. Like it kind of took me back to those places, which, you know, is never fun, but you deal with that more on a weekly basis rather than, you know, once a year.
That season,
yeah, exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. And then just like the bounce back of that, I think that teaches you so much about life in general, being in that world. And like you said, there's so many people competing for the same job, the same casting, all that stuff. I think it definitely builds such a thick skin. But kind of to segue into the fact that I did also recognize that you had made it very far and you are a part of the Sports Illustrated family. So one of the things that you shared so openly on social media was just like, you know, the mental strength that you had to just keep going after it. And I love that that's something that you can tell that you want and that you deserve and that you're going to get. So kind of walk us through that whole process, and, you know, what it's like to go after those big things such as Sports Illustrated.
Yeah. So for me, Sports Illustrated is like end goal, dream job for me. And I'm still like waiting to get that call. Like I think we find out pretty soon, like what's happening with that. But I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, this is my 4th year trying out for it. And I guess, sorry, it's so loud.
It's okay.
I mean, for me, I feel like I felt pretty defeated last year when I didn't get it. And I was kind of questioning whether or not I wanted to put myself out there again for a 4th time. But then I was kind of looking at bigger picture, like for my little sister, for like the young girls out there who do get told no and don't get something on the first try. Like, I really want to be that voice for people and let them know, like, hey, like, it's okay if someone says no. It's okay to not get it the first time. Like, keep trying. Like, no can just mean not now. Like, it's just not the right time. And I feel like everything happens right on time for you. And you just have to like keep pushing, keep that confidence, like, just trust the process. And so I just feel like for me, I'm really doing this because I want to be that inspiration for people who do feel defeated and do get knocked down from those no's and the rejections and the challenges that they face, and that, it might be worth it in the end, because, you might get that dream job, right? Like, it just wasn't meant to happen right then, or something else that's even better might come along from trying again. So I feel like when you put out that good energy, it's going to come right back to you.
Yeah. And you make a great point to the timing of it, because sometimes, like, I've noticed that things will start to pan out that I wanted maybe a year or 2 years ago. And it's like, now I get it. My headspace or, my confidence level is way different today than it is then. And I can manage this a lot better today than I could have, a couple years ago. So yes, everybody send good vibes to Allie for this round.
Please.
Because I associate you with Sports Illustrated. So just know that in a lot of people's minds, like, it's there for you. It fits, you fit, but you're already so much associated with the brand and all of their magic as well. So I also love the fact that you touched on, going for it relentlessly, keep at it regardless of it. Like, delay doesn't mean denial. What are some things that you do to keep you in like a solid headspace, or like inspirations for you? Because I know it's a day-to-day thing to wake up and, have the good vibrations and carry it through you for the day. But, sometimes there aren't those great days and you have to try to reel it back in, or allow yourself to rest and try it again the next day. So what are some things that you go to for the positivity?
Oh, this is tough, because I feel like, I've been struggling with it a little bit more this year, just because, you fall into a new year and this new excitement of like starting fresh and starting from scratch. But then like the pandemic plays into all of that too. And so things don't like happen as quickly as you wanted, or, people are still, slowly easing back into things. They're, normal right now isn't our true normal. But I think for me, I've been just trying to read books that, like just books like Super Attractor, or I just started reading A Return to Love, like books like that that really teach you like life lessons and how to attract good things in your life and how to focus on love. And so that has been really helpful for me. I also read The Secret, which I highly recommend to anybody who hasn't read The Secret.
I've been dying to read it. And then I started Netflix like twice, but it's not a good idea to start at night.
No, definitely not. But yeah, I highly recommend The Secret. And then I started, one of the Secret books that I read told me that I should do like 10 things that I'm grateful for at some point in the day, every day. So I started doing that, and that automatically puts me in a really good mental space to just sit there, really reflect on like your life and where you're at, and just like find anything that you're grateful for, even if it's the smallest things. And I feel like for me, it always puts me in a better mental space when I look at that sheet of paper and I'm like, hey, like I had a great conversation with my mom today, or, I have a great partner, or I have a roof over my head, like things like that. So that's been really great for me as well. And I tried meditating. It's hard for me to sit still and stay in a spot, but when I am in the right mental space for meditation, like that is a game changer as well.
I know, that's something I'm still trying to work on. My sister's big on Like she sends me meditation things all the time and she's like, just try it, just sit still. But I'm like, Naomi, I cannot sit still for the life of me. Like I
so
don't.
hard.
It really is. I start like, I don't know how people really just shut off their brain because I'm over here like, ooh, let's write that down when I get up. And then it's like, by the time I'm on number 5 of write that down when I get up, I'm up because it's like, I might as well just get started on things. So I'm still working on meditation. I'm working on yoga because there's been classes that have been life-changing for me. Don't get me wrong. But actually getting up and being like, okay, I need to go do yoga. It's still like, I don't know. For me, it's getting that high. So I rather run or rollerblade, or I have to do something that like amps me up. So I think if I practice yoga more, it might help me center and quiet my brain. But even in there, I'm just kind of like, what do I do next here?
I do love yoga. I was always doing like hot power, like at core power yoga all the time. And that's like the most still I'm going to get.
I love core power. Did you go there in Minnesota?
That's where I started really loving it, was in Minnesota, because I was just like, oh, it's so cold here. I need to do something that warms me up.
It's funny you say that. That was the first place I ever did hot yoga, and it was at Core Power because my ex-boyfriend's from Minnesota. So I was there so much. And my they're from islands in Europe, so we don't do cold weather. And to not do cold weather and then to do Minnesota, it was a whole nother level of shock.
Oh, yeah. For people who don't know, it's cold. It is cold.
Oh my gosh. And then when they get up and they're like, we're going to go do this today, I'm like, we're going outside. We're doing outside things today. So yeah, that's a whole shock. But at least core power yoga was the only thing I looked forward to. And then leaving, I was like, no, I need 10 pounds of clothes just to get out of here.
Oh, that's me. The people who look cute in the cold, like that's not me. I'm just like,
whole breed, like
3 pairs of pants on. I look like a hot dog, like walking. Like, oh, I'm so bundled up.
He used to be like, why do you need long johns? And I'm like, people don't wear the long johns underneath their jeans and then go out in public. And he's like, no. And I'm like, no, I am. Like, it was very obvious I was not.
Yeah, I'm the person that will wear the leggings and then the pants and then the 5 pairs of socks. Like that, it's not about fashion when it comes to whether that's.
I have no winter fashion sense. Nope, as many jackets as I can wear. So another good thing that I wanted to ask you about was, you work in fitness modeling. You have a lot of great modeling stuff going on now. Balancing that with Eric's career and stuff, I've noticed that sometimes in downtime, we start to learn new creative outlets. What are maybe some new creative outlets for you, or just lessons that you learned in between the juggle and, going on your career path and stuff? Like, what are some new things for you?
Well, a passion of mine that I love to do that just, puts me in a good space always is cooking. I love to cook. I feel like that's where I get really, really creative. Like Eric's definitely the artsy one of the two of us. He paints, he takes photos. He's really artsy. So that's his whole world. But for me, it's cooking. I feel like that's where I get really creative and, putting different flavors together and just experimenting with things and, hosting people and cooking for them. So for me, like that's really fulfilling, and it's great because I can do it anywhere and I have more time for it usually when I'm in Minnesota, like working, like when he's working all day, like I'm like, okay, like I can cook and I can, try all these things. But in the off season, actually, it's surprising. He likes to cook more. He likes to join in.
Really?
Yeah, he's super into cooking. Like he wants to get better and all that. So sometimes he takes over. But yeah,
I love
cooking
that.
For sure.
Okay, so now I have to ask, what's the best dish that you cook and what's the best dish that he cooks, in your opinion?
I don't know. That's so tough. I mean, I make a really good like spicy fusilli, like pasta. That's really good that I like to make. And then I love making like Mexican food. I don't know. That's tough. I would have to ask him. But I also do sushi too. Like I don't know if you've ever had like
homemade sushi?
Yeah. Have you ever had like spicy tuna on crispy rice cakes? Like that type of stuff?
No, but it sounds amazing.
Yeah, I make those. Those are really good. That's probably his favorite thing that I make. And then he is really good at like anything on like the barbecue or like the grill, like chicken wings, like any of that stuff, like that's
mastered.
Yeah. And he makes really fire French fries, like really good French fries.
Regular French fries or sweet potato French fries, it does matter.
Regular French fries. He watched YouTube on how to make McDonald's French fries and kind of recreated it, but without all the BS that they put in it. So really good.
Oh my God. That's impressive. The French fry thing, I'm super impressed with that one. I love it. Cooking, I mean, that was definitely something I got a chance to do when the world went on pause. And then I had a whole, I guess I thought I was Italian in a past lifestyle. So I did the whole like pasta from scratch and stuff, but it's so therapeutic to be in the kitchen.
Agreed.
I don't know. You're just in full control. And then you just make something that your family loves or, you know, your partner loves, and the feedback is just so reassuring. So love cooking. That's definitely such a great creative outlet. Which perfectly goes into some Q&As. So of course, people love to know any kind of fitness tips, beauty tips, and all that stuff. And then there's like some fun things in between. Random fun questions that people had. Tea or coffee?
Ooh, tea. For sure.
Tea?
I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't drink coffee. It doesn't make me feel good.
Jitters?
It just like, it gets me way too jittery and hyper, and then I get gnarly headaches. Like coffee for me, I don't do it. Like exercise for me is coffee.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. Coffee does cause a headache though at some point of the day, every day. NFL or NHL?
Oh, that's hard. Oh, I mean, I will say live hockey and on TV football.
That's a good way. That's a safe way to separate it. I see what you did there. That was safe. Vegan or you got to have your meat?
Gotta have my meat. I could never be a vegan. Could never be a vegan.
Have you tried
it? No. And I just like, I've tried doing like vegetarian and all of that. And I just love sushi too much. Like I could do pescatarian if I could have fish and stuff like that. But fully vegan, absolutely not.
Oh my gosh, I tried it. No, I definitely at least have to have fish. That's for sure. Yeah. And I know that they say the options are endless, but I ended up having the same thing for like a week straight. And I was like, this is insane. Like, how do you get this creative without looking like you're eating coleslaw or sloppy joes?
Exactly.
Every night.
Exactly.
I got
Agreed.
So you kind of sort of answer this: pre-workout or an energy drink, or you don't need either.
I don't do either. I don't do anything that like, because I feel like when you start, I mean, if people like that, that's great. But for me personally, I feel like if I start doing that, then I'm going to rely on that. And I would rather just rely on myself to like give myself that energy or like mentally tell myself that I can get through a workout. But I mean, I'm sure there's times where I would be like very happily would have had a pre-workout, but I don't do either.
I haven't really found one that doesn't make me want to crawl out of my skin. I will say Celsius, I've become a little too codependent on Celsius. It's just like.
So many people love Celsius. A lot of my friends drink that and they think it's great.
And I'm not a big soda person. Like I never really got into that, but I guess if I was to try like have anything else top of the day that's not coffee, Celsius has become that. Your favorite or go-to workout?
Lately, it's been Pilates. I've been on a Pilates kick. I've been loving it.
Pilates. Yeah. I felt so unathletic the first time I did Pilates.
Same. And I've been going consistently for almost a year now, and I still am learning new stuff. And I still haven't mastered certain things. Like every workout is super challenging and there's always new things to learn. And for me as an athlete, that's great because I just want to keep getting better. Like, it gets boring once you get really good at something like type of thing. And I'm nowhere near that with Pilates. So,
oh my gosh. And they just work such intricate muscles.
Yes. And we think soccer, like soccer wasn't slow. There's nothing slow about soccer. Everything's fast, like powerful, like all that type of stuff. So my first Pilates session, I was like, I don't think I like it. Like it's kind of boring. I don't sweat that much. And then then Eric goes, no, keep going back because he does it too. And I kept going, and I love it. I go, going slow is the way to go, because you're really in touch with your body. And like, I relearn how to do things that I feel like I've been doing wrong my whole life.
Yeah, it was very eye-opening as well. And it's funny that you mentioned the soccer thing, because the first time that I did it, I tried hot Pilates, and I ran out of the class, and I'm like, okay, I played soccer, for crying out loud, and winger, the position that runs the most out there. Why
Yeah.
did I just die and burn 200 calories in a 1 hour class? I was scatterbrained. I didn't even know how to wrap my brain around it. And then woke up the next day and places were sore, new places. And I was like, what? When did this happen?
Yeah.
So yeah, Pilates, definitely a great one to go to.
And the fact you did hot Pilates, as if it's not hard enough without the heat.
Well, there goes that like overzealous competitive athlete mentality. I'm like, this sounds very low key, maybe a little too chill. Like, I kept associating it, or overly associating it, with yoga. So I beyond underestimated it when I went in there, and they completely kicked my ass. I was like, wow, thank you guys for this. I was like, this needs to be in my regimen 3 times a week minimum. Because I teach spin. So I'm an instructor as well. So I was like, I really got too caught up in like, nothing can kick my butt right now. But I kind of hit that fitness, like, you get in that fog where it's like, what's going to challenge me? And after I competed and stuff, and knew that I didn't want to live a life that extreme, because I had a best friend who's so keen on balance, and I lacked balance when I was younger, especially coming out of college and stuff. It's just like, I was too obsessed with being the best weightlifter, the best this, best that. So trying to find that balance, I kind of just hit that weird, like, well, what do I do now? Spin, I love. It's always a challenge, but as an instructor, you're there for people, not particularly yourself. And then I tried Pilates, and I was like, wow. So 3 times a week, you better believe it. I'm in there, and I'm like trying to hone that craft. Now, just to dive in a little bit deeper on the NFL versus NHL. If you had to pick a favorite team, not in association with any loved ones, who's your favorite team in the NFL and in the NHL?
That's hard. I mean, being in LA, always cheering for the Kings. I mean, I cheer for them. And I was here like when they were winning like the Stanley Cups, like a couple of them for those few years, and that was pretty exciting time. But I also always, we always cheer on teams like where my dad, his old teammate, is now part of the staff, or my cousins, like their old teammates who play. So I feel like I'm kind of that person that just cheers for like whoever I know, kind of thing. Like I'm not like, oh, this is my team. And then the same thing with football. Like I'm the type of person that just likes to watch a good game. Like I don't care who's playing. I really just like a good game, and I've always been into that. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Like especially if it's playoffs for anything, I'll have it on the TV. Eric's like, you like to watch football more than I do, and I'm like, yeah, it's so fun, especially during playoffs time. Like it's so exciting. I don't think I have like a favorite team in football, and I mean, if I cheer for the Vikings, obviously, because that's the team that he's on, but I wouldn't be like, oh, I have a absolute favorit team. I actually never watched football at all until I started dating him.
Okay, that was about to be my next question, because obviously, we know a little bit that you're connected to hockey and stuff. So I'm like, did you watch a little bit, or did you completely dive into it with him? Now, it's funny because you learned football dating Eric. I grew up, my mom worked for the Dolphins. My brother actually played football, so football was my life. Hockey's my favorite sport. It's just
really. Oh, that
it
makes me
is
so happy.
Oh my gosh, because to come from no hockey background, and I mean none. I mean, my mom has family members that play cricket and think that that's the only sport in this world. But when you really start to learn about the athleticism and the depth that goes into that sport, I was just mind blown. And then you start seeing the game differently. You start seeing plays develop, and then you're just like, holy crap, but what these guys do out here, like hand-eye coordination, foot-eye coordination. With soccer, I only had foot-eye coordination. You throw something at me, I'm like, no. I'm thinking about jammed fingers.
People get hit in the face all the time.
I'm like, don't throw anything at me. Toss it to my feet. I can handle it down there, but anywhere else, no. So yeah, I actually ended up absolutely loving hockey. That's one of the most dominant sports that I cover now.
I love
and
that.
Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah. So that's funny.
I love Tampa. Actually, one of my favorite childhood memories is going with like a group of Canadians to Game 7, and it was Calgary versus Tampa, and they had won the Stanley Cup that year. And my family, we all wore white because we knew better. We knew to show up in that arena wearing white. Versus like other Canadians, decided like they're Calgary fans, so they all wore red, and they were like a little line of them in the whole. We weren't sitting with them. People were throwing drinks at them, like yelling at them. And my dad's like, thank God we didn't get tickets together. Like,
that's so funny, and it's true because it turns into like just a freckle in the crowd. Especially with the Canadian teams. I mean, yes, it's the Canadian sport, but here, if we play a Canadian team, it's like one corner of the arena, and then everything else is just bolts going nuts. But yes, love it.
That was fun. Eric actually loves hockey now. I took him to his first game, and he was just so mesmerized, and he just wanted to learn more about it. And I mean, he was so impressed. And if you ask him, he'll say it's the best sport to watch live. He has no bias towards football at all. He's like, no, that sport is crazy live. It's so much fun.
When I first started covering it, I'm like, dude, does media get to sit on the glass? And they're like, no. And I'm like, come on, just
you're
one
like
seat.
Dang. No, and that's the best place to
right
be
there.
For sure.
Yes, when they're doing their work along the boards and stuff. At first I saw it and I was like, this isn't like, do they not want to stop? Does he want to hit the boards? And now that I know more about it, I'm just like, I get it. They're using it in the game. But I was so freaked out. And then the fights, like, I didn't realize that people want them to fight. I thought it was just something they allowed to happen. But it's like, if a guy gets out there and has 2 fights in a game, he's the hero of the week.
Have you watched The Enforcers? Like the documentary that they did? Because like back in the day when my dad played, guys were literally signed to teams to either protect like their star shooters or like to fight. So they had guys that maybe weren't necessarily the best hockey players, but they were really good fighters.
So they hired muscle.
Yeah, but it was a kind of a whole documentary about that, but all the concussions that came with it, and just like the downside to that, as well as just like how much the game of hockey has changed, because obviously there's new rules, and like back in the day you used to be able to hook guys like if they got a breakaway with your stick, and stick lengths have changed. Like there's so much that has changed.
Yeah. Now you're in the penalty box for everything.
Yeah, like
it's so funny. And what actually got me on hockey was that, like I said, my ex is from Minnesota, and when I first went out there, they took me to this exhibition where it was a tournament of like young hockey players and then people who were getting ready to go into juniors. And I mean, if people don't know, there's so many levels to hockey. So I have so much respect for NHL players because there's so many different things and hoops that they have to jump through just to get to that career. I don't even think people know the half of it or how many hockey leagues there are in the world.
Oh, yeah, that's my brother. That's my brother going through it right now. Like,
really?
Yeah. And people always thought it was so weird because he went to college when he was like 21, or, because he played in like the junior leagues before he went to college, and then he went to college, and now he's playing in the minor leagues, like below the NHL, like working his way up from there. But there's a whole process to it. And Eric was like, well, isn't there a draft? And I'm like, yeah, there's 3 years you can get drafted, and then you become a free agent if you don't get drafted from those years. Like, he goes, this
even
is the weirdest thing ever. Yes. Yeah, it's so bizarre.
Yeah,
it's not a normal draft process. It's not like with football where it's really hard to make it if you don't get drafted. Whereas hockey, it's like, yeah, it's obviously great if you get drafted, but there's a lot of guys that, haven't fully developed at 17, 18, 19, and then they develop and they're these badass hockey players once they get to college or, finish their juniors, and then, they go into free agency into NHL. So
yeah, and
so
then
different.
now what I've just learned is like if they get into a contract year and they're in between or kind of trying to figure out their next move, they go overseas. So I've noticed how many guys play in Finland and Sweetland, excuse me, Finland
Yeah.
and Sweden, and then end up getting like not drafted but signed to an NHL contract. So it's just the whole world of it has me completely marveled, and yeah, people are shocked to find out, but hockey is my favorite sport. It's what I cover the most, and I would honestly like love to fully shift over into covering hockey because there's just so much to it. Because I do the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then I also do the Las Vegas Knights, or the Golden Knights, which they're a lot of fun to cover. I feel like they just have so much swag as a newer team.
Yeah, they
so I gotta
do.
get my
Their
hands
games
on
are fun. I've been to one. It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so then I guess I'll leave you with two more questions. Just because I'm hockey nerding out with you, do you think the West Coast is stronger, those teams are stronger than the East Coast? Because I know there's this whole debate that East Coast are just skilled players, West Coast is physical and skilled players. Do you think there's any truth to that?
For hockey?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's tough because it really just depends on like your background and like where you train and stuff. Like for example, my brother actually left pretty early on the West Coast because it's so expensive to go to like good teams out in the West Coast. So he started living in places like Omaha, Nebraska, and like, South Dakota and all of that to play hockey. So I don't know. That's tough. I feel like Midwest is pretty strong. I feel like East Coast, like I just feel like there's more competition probably on that side than West Coast. But I don't know. There's some really good West Coast players too. But it really depends on where you train. Like my brother trained with this Russian coach Boris, and he learned how to skate without a stick, and then once he was able to do all the drills without the stick, or he got the stick, and then he had to do them with the stick, and then once he got that, then he was able to get the puck. Like, so he learned how to do it that way. Like he learned how to, and he's really skillful and can skate really well. But some guys don't, like they just get everything all at one time. So I don't really know. I would have to ask my brother, to be honest. I would simply just be guessing because he's kind of been all over the place. He started West Coast, then went Midwest. Like now he's more East Coast. Like, yeah.
Well, if that ever randomly comes up in conversation, definitely let me know. Because people will talk about it. I don't know. I mean, and of course I'm hardcore, like over here involved in the Bolts. So I'm like, I mean, this year I'm like, we're skilled and we're physical. But I will say a couple years ago, we were just a skilled team. You couldn't make us be physical for the life of me. I don't understand why, but
I mean, the game is definitely not as physical. Like there are physical people, but it's not as physical as it used to be. Like there were, there were people that literally were just physical, but now it's like you have to have some sort of skill set to go with that too.
Not just the muscle. I gotta remember that though. The Enforcers, you said, is what it's called.
Yeah, I think that's the name of it. I have to triple check, but I believe that's the name of the documentary.
I'll Google it. And then just to leave everybody with, what is some advice or inspiration that you would love to leave people with, your footprint, your thumbprint when it comes to interacting, or something that you just like to be, remembered by or known of?
Oh, I mean, I feel like the biggest thing that I think that I am a huge advocate for and always preaching is just taking care of your mental health. And like, to me, that's something that's very close to my heart. And, you can be healthy physically, but if you're not taking care of your mental health, like I don't feel like you're living your healthiest life. I feel like you have to take care of both. And so I always preach to, give yourself that love, that self-love, spend that time with yourself. I think quarantine and the pandemic altogether really taught us to slow down and like have some time for ourselves. And when you're with yourself in that moment and you're hearing your thoughts, like really listening to yourself and really listening to what you need. And I think that that's really important, and, communicating those needs. And, it's okay to not feel okay, but it's also important that we communicate that and we figure out a way to like move forward and how we can feel better in that. But yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing that I've been stressing to people with the pandemic is, taking care of your mentals. How's your mental health? How's all that going?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, nobody caught this beforehand because I had an opportunity to say it to you one-on-one, but I was just, praising Allie for the fact that she's so real and so authentic on social media. So if you guys don't follow her, go follow her, because I love the quotes that you put up. I love that you address, good days, bad days, where your mentality is at, because we can't always just see the perfect side of things. That's why people are so quick to think there's something wrong, or, that they're inadequate in a sense. And it's like, no, everybody is going through it. Like, everybody has a day that they just need to reset or reevaluate.
Exactly.
So I absolutely love that you are so transparent about that and that you put that out into the world and the atmosphere. Allie, once again, thank you so much for joining us on the Sports Case. Guys, we will be back with episode 3, and I'll let you know who that guest is. But once again, head over, show Allie some love, good vibes, and love for Sports Illustrated, and you can follow her at Allie Courtnall, right? It's just at your name. Okay.
Yes.
And I'll have that down the bottom when we post this as well. So here we go, closing out. Thank you guys for joining the Sports Case.